The following presentation is brought to you by the Pride of ODU, the official NIL collective of Old Dominion Athletics. Be a monarchist. Join the Pride. Monarch Nation, we are trying something new today. We've never done a companion podcast, but David has a new article coming out, or you are already seeing it because it's in this piece of content, ranking the hot seats for coaches this year for college football in the Sun Belt. And we thought we'd discuss it this time and see how you guys like it. So, David, Aaron, how y'all doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just happy to talk about football. I know the season doesn't start for a few months, but it's never too early, right?
Well, if you were to have the conversation with Ricky, we'd know that the season never ends. So it's always a good time to talk football. It's always a good time to see you, David. It's been a little while, so I'm excited to have this conversation tonight.
And based on what you just said, Aaron, it doesn't feel like it's ended for me because I am doing college football content year round now. So
it's pretty awesome. I mean, shameless plug. I'll throw it out there. If you are a member of the collective, thank you very much for the support. You guys have been seeing some cool articles come out behind the shield, really getting a peek behind the curtain on recruiting, a lot of stuff on football and men's basketball. It's only going to get better from here. But Mike, you've been doing an awesome job on that.
Yeah, we got some good news recently. I got an invitation to ODU's football camps coming up. So I'm going to get a chance to look at some of their prospects and some of their commits and see how they do things where they're testing these kids and deciding on who to offer and, I mean, what the separation is between a kid that's worth offering and maybe a kid who's worth offering a walk-on opportunity. So I'm really interested to do that, but I'm more interested in talking about these coaches in the Sun Belt. So, David, talk to us about your article a little bit. Maybe give an overview of what it is, and let's then talk about how you did last season, because this is not the first time you've done this.
Yeah. I feel like last season I did a hot seat article, and the way it's set up is it's set up in tiers of hottest seats to seats that are simmering to safer seats to coaches that are just excelling. And then, of course, the new hires who are usually the safest seats because they're just hired. The fan bases want to give them a little bit more time to mesh and build the program up. And also their buyouts are going to be the most expensive that first season. So they're very unlikely to lose their job after one season. Last year, I had a very similar article, and I felt like it was pretty accurate for the most part. I actually said Charles Huff had a very hot seat that he needed to perform, and he sure did perform, didn't he? He won the entire Sun Belt. He still left his program due to his contract expiring and did a very strange lateral move to Southern Mississippi, which is something you don't see very often in the Sun Belt. And that kind of segues great into the lowest tier for this year in the new hires right now. There were 3 programs that have new coaches in the Sun Belt. Tony Gibson from Marshall, Dowell Loggins, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Dowell Loggins at App State, and Charles Huff at Southern Miss. I think the safest seat in the entire conference is probably Charles Huff, because not only is he a well-established coach now that he's won the Sun Belt, but he's also going to a program that hasn't won in a while and is going to give him every single opportunity and everything he says he needs to compete there.
Now, I'll say this. Southern Miss is the only school I know of that has fired a coach after one season in recent years in the Sun Belt. So if we could take you back to like when ODU was moving up to Conference USA, they had Larry Fedora. He gets hired away after a Conference USA championship to UNC. He's replaced by Ellis Johnson. who then proceeds to take a conference championship team and go 0-12 and is summarily fired and replaced by Todd Monken. So I don't
I
know.
guess Coach Huff's his luck there is he doesn't have to worry about taking a conference champion down at Southern Miss to an 0-4. But there are some high expectations for him going down there. I mean, they may veil it in saying there's not, but let's be real. I mean, Southern Miss just hired a coach who won the conference championship. He's bringing his quarterback along with like a third of the team. So the expectations, although they may not say it outright, are higher than I think what's publicly being put out there.
I think Southern Miss fans expect to win every year. They're a very proud fan base. They have a lot of success in their past. Um, I don't expect him to go on 12. I expect him to win some games, but I will. I just want to throw that out there. I think
I
they're the
also
only program I know of in the Sun Belt who's fired a coach that quickly.
I also think that's just how bad you have to be. That speaks to how bad you have to be to get fired in your first year, going 0-12. And Southern Miss, you know, after firing him, Southern Miss has still kind of struggled to compete even after ever since Larry Fedora left. They had a bowl season with Will Hall, but obviously Will Hall had two pretty bad seasons recently, and hence why this position was open. But in general, of course, there's always exceptions. But in general, I do think new hires are typically safe for due to the buyout, due to the fact that fan bases will give them time to build the roster. And I think Charles Huff is safe simply because he's proved it. He has took Marshall bowling in every single season he had with Marshall. He has some big P4 wins, beating Virginia Tech and Notre Dame at Marshall, and he won the Sun Belt last season. So I do think Southern Miss is going to give him the time he needs to build. And I agree with Aaron that he may do it really fast. There are some high expectations there, especially with all the talent he brought to Southern Miss.
Yeah, I mean they got a lot going for them right now. It's all depends on how it falls together. Um, I haven't looked at their schedule at all. Like,
Well,
what
you
are they?
figure he's not gonna play his quarterback until they get into conference, right?
Yeah, that's what he claims with how last year went when he was changing quarterbacks between Braylon Braxton and I believe the other kid's name was Stone Earl. Um, but yeah, he claimed he didn't play Braylon Braxton against Power Fours and wanted to wait to play him, which could be true. Could be true.
It also sounds like horse manure. Why would
I
you
wasn't
want
gonna
to
say it,
challenge
but
your young? Why would you want to challenge your starting quarterback and prepare them for league play by having them play against better competition? Why on earth would you want that?
yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Um, but the other two new coaches, staying with this tier of the new hires, Tony Gibson at Marshall and Dal Loggins at App State, I do think their jobs are safe after this season, even if it's a rough season. They're brand new. I know West Virginia uh, loves Tony Gibson. He's from Ransom, West Virginia, pretty close by to Huntington and southern West Virginia. As an attorney, I've been to Ransom, West Virginia. I know exactly where he's from. I've been to Huntington a bunch of times. They like him. Though something to watch is Marshall is getting a new athletic director, and whoever the new athletic director is didn't hire Tony Gibson. You know, sometimes you'll see a new athletic director come in and want to hire his own guy. So for that reason, I put him as the hottest of the new hire seats. It's still not a hot seat or anything. He's a new hire, but
I
I
think
don't think that's safe as
I think
Charles.
there's one other caveat to this year that makes this year different, and every year moving forward a little different. That makes the new hires even safer. That's the revenue sharing. Uh, all of these programs can't really afford to spend more money on football and basketball, but they are.
Right.
And we're going to be spending more on rosters moving forward through revenue sharing, and it's going to make it harder to pull together $1 million to fire a guy. I don't know. I think people are going to have to be a little bit more patient moving forward.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see how Loggins plays out. I mean, all these other guys have a long history of college coaching, whereas if you look at his resume going back to like 2005, it's all NFL
Right.
until 2021 Penn State. So offensive analyst, tight ends coach at Arkansas for a little bit, and then offensive coordinator and quarterbacks at South Carolina. So running a college program is significantly different than the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see, the staff that he puts together and how that helps him kind of, play the college game, so to speak.
Yeah, it's going to be very different for him. Managing a college team is a lot different than managing NFL players who are under contract and can't, just jump in the portal whenever they want to. I'll be definitely looking at how he does there and how the fan base reacts, because App State fan base, they have high expectations. They want to win, and they'll give him a little bit of time, but they will get impatient fast, in my opinion, because App State wants to win the Sun Belt. They want to win the Sun Belt East, and they want to win the Sun Belt, and football is king at that school. So I definitely think there's high expectations, but I also think he has a lot of potential to be a great coach.
The other thing you're going to see this year from both of these guys and the next few years is this is their first time as head coaches at all, right?
That's right. This is the first
They're going to
time.
make mistakes. And it's going to be how they learn from them and how they deal with them. It's going to decide how successful they are. We've had this conversation with people in the OU athletic department. Hiring Ricky as a first-time head coach, they knew there was going to be things that he was learning on the job. And we're getting to that point in his career where he's learned a lot of those lessons. And now we're seeing the fruit from learning from them and fixing those situations. Whereas a couple years ago, you were just making those mistakes, right? But now you're learning to avoid those mistakes and how to prepare or how to avoid them moving forward. And they're going to make those mistakes. How does he react to it? How does the team react to it? How does the fan base react to it is going to be the interesting thing. Because Marshall Huff was a brand new hire. He had never head coached before he was there. Now he's at Southern Miss. He's in his second job. He's got some experience to bring to Southern Miss. He's got a lot of talent from Marshall that he's bringing to the table. But Dowell, Loggins, and Tony Gibson don't have that. But they're both at programs that expect to win frequently.
Yeah, and we'll get to Gerard Parker at Troy later in the pod. But he said something recently that I thought was pretty illuminating on being a first-year head coach. He was on the Locked On podcast, and he talked about how his very first game, they were doing the Trojan walk to the stadium, and they get to like an intersection on their team walk, and he's leading his team to the first game, and he doesn't know which direction to go. He doesn't know if it's a left or a right, which way to the locker room. And it's those little things. If you don't even know the way to go, there's got to be a lot of other growing pains in your first
People don't
season.
think about that stuff, and there are so many moving parts. I mean, in every sport, but like, Mike, the conversations we've had with Kieran, about all the things that go into running a basketball team, from heads and beds and it's just everything. It's such and football just magnify it on a much larger scale. The staffs that these guys put together, I think, are really going to be important to help them as they learn their way.
Well, let's just think about it.
Head coach.
These guys are. I mean, Loggins is a OC, right? He's career offensive guy. Gibson's a career defensive guy. On game day, they're worried about their defense or their offense and what kind of plays they're going to run. as a head coach, you're worried about both of those units, the special teams unit, and then all of your game day staff that you have to deal with. Like you have to deal with the equipment guys. You got to deal with the health staff. Like you got a lot more things that's on your plate.
The
You got to
officials.
shaking the right hands pregame or postgame. You got to like there is so much more on your plate that you're dealing with as a head coach that you've never ever had to deal with as a DC or OC. So that's why we see these guys like they may have been a great OC or DC, but maybe they're not a great fit as a head coach, and you'll never know it until they are.
That's a great point.
Sweet.
That's a
Well,
great point.
David, I think now's a good time probably to move to your tier 4 of freezing
Tier
their asses
4,
off.
freezing their asses off. This is the tier for the coaches who are just excelling at their schools, and their schools are just so happy to have them, and they can't imagine firing these coaches anytime in the near future. There's only 2 coaches I put in here. I think the coldest seat is GJ Kinney. Texas State moved up to the FBS, I think, in 2013, 2012. I'm sure the internet may correct me on the exact year. But when they moved up, they weren't very good. Their best 2 FBS seasons were the last 2 FBS seasons with GJ Kinney, and he's had a high-powered offense that has been fun to watch in San Marcos, Texas. He is doing the best. They've won a bowl game, and it wasn't this past season, but season before that at the bowl game, they drank all the beer in the stadium, all of it. They ran out of beer, and they won their first bowl game with him. They gave him a huge contract. They gave him a huge extension through 2031, and they love him. They want to build a statue of him. They're going to keep him for a while. And depending on what happens with conference realignment and the Pac-12, they're a top Pac-12 target. He may take them to the Pac-12 coming up soon.
So I thought about the selling of the beer thing. How prepared were they? Is the question I have because
Mike, I
I
was
will
thinking
offer
the
a
same
follow
exact
up
thing.
here. I will offer a follow up here. I've been at 2 events recently. Shane Gillis at the Scope. They were ill prepared for how much people were to drink at that event. There were no beers after the opener was done at the 2 beer stalls I went to.
How do
They're
you
like,
run out of
we
beer
have
at a
more
Shane
coming.
Gillis?
I don't understand. Hey, we could ask our friends Josh and Jeff over at Afterglow on that. But like you've either got one or two things. You either have, hats off to the folks that are at that football game or at Shane Gillis that just can drink their asses off, or shame on the vendor or Aramark or whoever's got the contract there. It's not like it's a perishable that's going to go
Right.
bad if you don't sell it that night. Like,
Aaron,
oh
you're
my
now
gosh.
getting to my point. I think it's a lack of preparation that we're dealing with here and not really anything to be bragging about. Because I was also at Billy Strings. ODU was prepared for Billy Strings to come in the building. They sold beer in that stadium in one show. They said it's the most they've ever sold in beer at the TED, and they didn't run out. So I am saying preparation matters. Was that
If
bowl
you
game prepared?
In everything, whether you're a QB1 or you're stocking the beer at Ballard.
I mean, if you run out of beer at a college football game, like you're ill prepared. There's no way around it. Like you needed to prepare better. But give the Texas State fans their credit. They drank all the beer in the stadium. They were so excited to win that game, and I give them credit. I think Texas State is going to be fun to watch for years to come with GJ Kinney there, especially if they stay in the Sun Belt, and they can probably compete with the Sun Belt. But they're going to do a lot of shootouts. I still haven't seen that Bobcat defense come around yet. A lot of
That
their
was going to be why you said they'll be exciting to watch.
yes, they'll be
They have zero defense.
a lot of fun.
Hey, we
The other
won
coach,
a lot of games in the early years with no defense.
that's right, the Bobby
I
Wilder
would.
era.
So, David, you said GJ had a colder seat than Bryant, and that is a sticking point that I would argue with.
That's a fair
ULM has
argument.
the lowest budget in the Sun Belt. They're not well suited to add more money here, and it's just getting more expensive to compete in college football. And if this guy can continue to compete, like even mediocrely, he's going to be surpassing expectations in Monroe, and they'd be idiots to fire him.
I really like Bryant Vincent as a head coach at ULM. He's also in this tier 4, freezing his ass off by his success. Last year, Vegas's win total, over under win total for ULM was 1.5 wins. I've never seen one that low before. And a lot of people were like, they got to win 2 wins, right? And taking the over. And that was a good bet because Bryant Vincent definitely exceeded expectations, and he went 5-7. Now, a lot of that was non-conference wins, though I got to give him credit for beating JMU. Like, that was a good win. I think he's a good coach, but I also agree with you that ULM has the smallest budget in the Sun Belt. They still don't have an offensive coordinator. He said back in December that he was going to hire an offensive coordinator. And here we are in May, and ULM still doesn't have an offensive coordinator. They do have a new offensive analyst, but still no offensive coordinator.
Offensive,
That could go back to
Yeah,
that could go back to budget.
Yeah, I do think Brian Vincent's a good coach. I do have my doubts that ULM just doesn't have the budget to win the Sun Belt. But we'll see. We'll see. But I would put GJ Kinney's seat colder than Brian Vincent just because GJ Kinney signed that big long-term contract through 2031. I don't think Brian Vincent's contract goes that far. But I think it's a fair point. If he keeps exceeding expectations and keeps hitting that over on wins, I think Brian Vincent could stay at ULM for a while because they just won't be able to replace him.
Well, ironically, the two freezing their asses off are in 2 of the hottest places in the country.
Yep.
I would say this for Vincent. We've seen this with other coaches in the conference. That if you're at a school where you're not failing, but you don't have the financial support, maybe you go back to being a P4 OC or DC. We saw that recently with a couple schools. Was it Troy's head coach went to Alabama to be an assistant?
Yeah, that's right. Kane Womack. He's a defensive coordinator at Alabama. Left South Alabama last year, and I think he did pretty good at Alabama's defensive coordinator last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you're talking about getting resources.
Georgia State, and you had Georgia State's head coach that was doing fine there. I mean, he wasn't killing it, but he was doing pretty good, and he went back to South Carolina to be their O-line coach.
Yeah,
I think it's a combination of resources and then money. I mean, those guys can do that. At the same time, probably getting paid more. And then if they do well, which if you're going to an Alabama or something like that, you probably are, and then leverage it into a better position. What's up, Kitty?
That was just my cat Indy wanting to take a cameo into our show.
Like Indy as in Indiana Jones?
Indy as in a character from Bluey because my daughter named her.
I think Indy is ready for tier 3.
Yeah, tier 3 is kind of I consider this still safe seats, but I call it not hot, but not cold either. They're not the coaches that the fan base are going head over heels about. And there's some fan bases that just have really high expectations. I put JMU's Bob Chesney and Louisiana's Michael Desormeaux in that kind of category. Like, they've been successful. Desormeaux got his team to the Sun Belt Championship, even though they lost pretty handedly to Marshall. And Bob Chesney had won JMU's first ever bowl game. But I do think I don't think their seats are hot. I don't think they're in any way getting fired after this season. But I do think their fan bases want to win the Sun Belt. So they're not, their fan bases aren't head over heels for these coaches until they perform on the field.
So, question for you, David.
Go ahead.
Let's go with Chesney. All right, because we're much closer to JMU than we are to Louisiana.
That's right.
All right, we know that fan base is passionate, just like we are as well, and the two fan bases are passionate towards each other. All right, so Chesney comes in last year and has a really nice season. All right, a lot of folks could argue that he inherited a team. Granted, players left just like every other school. We had significant players leave. We even had players leave for Indiana just like his did. This year, you could really say that this is his team now. So if that team underperforms because everybody is expecting him to be do well. I mean, if you were to look at the preseason, the prognosticators are probably going to have JMU up at the top. If he lays an egg, does that kind of Goldilocks the porridge is just right? Does it get hot real quick?
I think it's a situation where David's trying to predict who can get fired this year. In that situation, Aaron, I think it would put Chesney on the hot seat for next year. It would move him up the rankings for 2026. Because I think we can all agree, unless he has like a disastrous season where they go 0-12 and aren't competitive against anybody, he's probably going to be back for 2026.
Fair enough.
Right. Yeah, but I do agree with you that his seat could heat up fast if he doesn't perform to the high expectations there, because I don't think the win total odds are out yet at Vegas, but the odds to win the Sun Belt Championship, JMU has the best odds according to Las Vegas right now. So the expectations there in Harrisonburg are going to be sky high. And if he has a good season, even if he has a good season, just like last year, he gets his team to a bowl game, he wins a bunch of games. There's going to be some loud fans who aren't satisfied with that, and they want to win the conference. They want to, because this team was a juggernaut in the FCS for, I don't know how many years, 6-7 years. They ever since ODU left the FCS, they started dominating. And they come to the Sun Belt and they find success immediately. And Kurt Signetti, of course, leaves for Indiana. And of course, Bob Chesney inherits a great team. He does have to reload, and he did reload the team with a lot of his own players. But his quarterback last year, Alonzo Barnett, he was on the team before he arrived. So you can say he inherited a lot of key pieces. But you're not wrong. His seat could definitely heat up fast just because JMU and Louisiana and schools like that, they have high expectations. In this tier, I also have some other names where the expectations aren't so high, such as Del McGee at Georgia State. You wouldn't expect a coach who just went 3-9 at Georgia State to not have his seat being hot, but he was a brand new hire last year, and he was hired really late in the process, and there wasn't much of a roster there to begin with. He jumped in that spring portal and tried to find as much talent as he could at Georgia State, but he could only do so much. And he did have a fun kind of crazy win against Vanderbilt that can keep him afloat. But I do think Del McGee deserves a giant mulligan for last year, and it's almost like his real tenure at Georgia State starts this year. But this year he will be judged. It's not going to be a mulligan; it's going to be his team. I have a few other names. Oh, go ahead.
I think the standards at Georgia State are probably so low that he's probably fine. That needs to be said. Like, they've never really set expectations high there. He has recruited very well, but he's also had issues with retainment, which a lot of schools in the Sun Belt have. I mean, the NIL era makes it hard, but especially at Georgia State, they've had a very tough year this year with losing talent to other schools.
Right, and you're not wrong. Georgia State's expectations, they have not won the Sun Belt. They have not been one of the better Sun Belt teams. So their fan base's expectations are relatively low. They want to compete and they want to win just like everyone else does, but they don't have that history to back that up right now. And as long as Dell McGee can keep building the team and get the team getting better, the last game for ODU will be Georgia State back at the Castle. If his team is better that game than they are at the beginning of the season, then Dell McGee's job is going to be very safe. He's going to be just fine, regardless of what the record is right now. But he will start to be judged starting this season. I do think last season will be counted as a mulligan. Sticking with the Georgias, and another name in this tier is Georgia Southern. Clay Helton's Georgia Southern. He just signed an extension, and so did Arkansas State's Butch Jones, who's in this tier as well. The not hot, not cold. They both signed extensions. They both had really good bowl winning seasons. Excuse me, Clay Helton did not win his bowl, but Butch Jones won his bowl. They both had really good seasons, and that's an example of two coaches that I thought their seats were getting hot last year. They were warming up, not completely hot, but warming up, and they came out and they performed and they got an extension, and they get to continue, as Butch Jones would say, brick by brick.
Sorry, I'm looking at Clay Helton at Georgia Southern because he has kind of created this consistency thing where he starts out hot, and it cools off quite a bit later in the season.
Yeah,
Scout agrees with you, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the Sun Belt East race, and they fumbled it away last season. They first lost to ODU on Thursday Night Football, and then they couldn't quite get back into it between Marshall and JMU. Clay Helton definitely has a culture. He has a team that's going to be a very high-powered offense that throws the ball a lot. But the defenses at Georgia Southern have not been good at all. They've been kind of like Texas State, where we were talking about there's going to be a lot of shootouts. Georgia Southern had a lot of shootouts, and it'll be interesting to see because they have very high expectations now. They want to compete for the Sun Belt East, and they have good odds to do so. But I want to see more of that defense before I believe that they can beat JMU or the other teams in our division, because I haven't seen Clay Helton coach a very good defense yet.
Well, Mike, that's interesting you mentioned that. I think if that happens again this year, there's a real shot he's gone. Because that fan base is very passionate. They expect winners. I mean, they've got a history of winning. And you can only go so many times where you've got like a really strong first half and it just completely collapse before someone says enough is enough.
Yeah, they did just sign that extension, so I would say that's pretty unlikely. But I don't know. I'm also interested in Desert Mo because 2 very mediocre seasons and then 1 really great season last year. The quarterback's gone, and they could go back to being exactly what they were before last season, like a 6-7 or 6-win team. And after the highlights of the Napier era, are Louisiana fans going to be happy with another 6-7 win season?
You bring up a good point with Desermo in Louisiana. They're very passionate fan base that expect to win. They're really excited about their new quarterback, a transfer from Ole Miss, but he's from Lafayette, Louisiana. So his name's Walker Howard. He is a hometown hero. He has a lot of potential, but he's been, sitting on the bench at Ole Miss, and we don't really know if he's going to be very good or not. They're very excited about him, and they have every right to be. And I'm looking forward to see if he's going to be as good as what's promised. But you bring up a good point. What if the team stumbles and they're mediocre? He could rise up this list pretty fast if he doesn't perform there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a weird year. It feels like there aren't that many guys that should be much hotter than they are. but there seems to be a lot of mediocrity that is makes the decisions a little bit harder. Like if you look at Clay Helton's full package at Georgia Southern, he had a good year last year. But overall, has he met expectations at Georgia Southern year to year? I don't think that's the case at all. But he did
You know,
last year.
yeah, Clay Helton just got that extension, and some of the fan base were kind of mixed about that. There are some mixed reactions. Some people really like Clay Helton and want him to continue and hopefully and think he can win the Sun Belt East. And there were some that are thinking, why are we extending him when he hasn't done that? When he's gotten so close and then end of the year he starts losing games and as you say, mediocrity hits. Um, so yeah, it is kind of a weird year. There's been a lot of turnover, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But there's been a lot of new coaches in the Sun Belt. A lot of coaches have been poached by teams with bigger checkbooks, and a lot of other coaches have been let go for poor performance. So there's not a whole lot of coaches with long tenure here in this conference, and I think that's led to a lot of those weird balancing acts that coaches like Butch Jones and Clay Helton are doing right now.
I think in my head, I just think of the nightmare scenario of Middle Tennessee football. They started winning with Rick Stockstill. They gave him a long time to start winning, and then he started winning, and he was good for like 3 or 4 seasons. And then they extended him so far to the future that they had to live through painful after painful after painful football seasons because they could not afford to fire him. Uh, and when you start extending coaches like G.J. Kinney after 2 seasons to 2031, you start wondering, what are we doing? Like, uh, yeah, he won 8 games last year, but the year before that, he was 6-7, right? Like, um, I don't know. Like you're also paying him like a low level P4 head coach when you don't have P4 money. Just because you're worried about like a Mount West Conference or AAC team stealing the guy, or maybe a Texas Tech, they're still going to be able to pay for him if they want him. Maybe you're hoping for the buyout. I don't know, but if they don't, and he isn't raising the bar next year and the year after that, and it's actually getting lowered back to that 6-7 type season, you're not in a great position moving forward. You're
Yeah,
in a
that's
really tough position.
like that's like you hiring your wife's brother as your financial advisor. Completely sucks, and he's tanking your portfolio, but you just can't fire him because you're too close. That relationship is too long. It's an untenable space to be.
Well, let's start talking about some seats that might be heating up.
You didn't want to talk about that. All right.
That sounds a little close. That sounds a little personal, Aaron. You need to tell us anything.
I was the financial advisor, so I was the guy getting hired. But no, it's just one of those things that I would recommend. That never hire a close friend to be your financial advisor.
That makes a lot
Unless
of
it's
sense.
me and Aaron. If you want to hire us, please hire us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think there's two seats that are certainly heating up in the next tier, tier 2. I call it sitting on a butt warmer. I think they can survive a bad season, but they also might not survive a bad season. So the next coach is Troy's Gerard Parker. I think he only had one season, so I do think it's too early to say that his seat is hot. But it was a disappointing season. Their quarterback, Goose Crowder, was hurt for most of the season. They only won 4 games. And Troy, before him, John Sumrall was the coach, and he won back-to-back Sun Belt championships. So you're going from a program that was at the top of the conference for 2 years in a row to a program that couldn't even go to a bowl game. Now, it was his first season, and he didn't have his quarterback, and he could turn it around and go to a bowl game and his job won't be in jeopardy after that, I don't think. But if he repeats and goes 4-8, I think his seat is starting to get kind of hot. And the other coach I have in this tier is Coastal Carolina's Tim Beck. Tim Beck had a really good 2023. He went to the Hawaii Bowl and won it. But this past season, he kind of had a disappointing season. They did get bowl eligible, and they went to the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which is in their home stadium, so basically a home game. And they got throttled. They got UTSA ate their lunch that game. They had a lot of players enter the portal. They lost 36 players in the winter portal. I don't know how many they lost in the spring portal. And Tim Beck replaced both of his head coaches, and he's entering his third season at Coastal Carolina, and it's a pretty pivotal year for Tim Beck. He can excel and keep going, but if he misses a bowl game, I think his seat would start to get hot probably next year.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting dynamic with Coastal the last couple years. I mean, obviously, we've got kind of that 6 degrees of separation, like Kevin Bacon, whatever it is, with Ethan Vasco, and he was here and then he wasn't, and he was maybe here and he wasn't, and then he was at Coastal and now he's not at Coastal, and now he's at Liberty, I think. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do down there. I'm not really. Obviously, the fan base for baseball at Coastal is like crazy passionate. I don't know if the football fan base is quite so strong that if he has a mediocre season, they're going to really be calling for his head, unlike if it were baseball.
I would say this. The guy that handles all the money was the football coach before the last football coach.
Joe Moglia. Yeah, TD Ameritrade.
Right. That guy, if he's not happy with the results, it's going to change. We're going to see a new direction.
Good point. Although he is spending a lot of time with Fordham, I believe, these days. But
he's giving them money.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right.
So if we look at their schedule, they open up on the road at UVA, which UVA has added a lot this offseason. They've invested heavily into their football program. We don't know how that's going to result, but let's just say they're better than usual. They play an FCS. Then they host ECU, who has been very down the last few years, right?
They turned it around with the interim head coach last season and had a good season last year, though they had a really bad 2023. East Carolina, is it at Coastal Carolina or is it
they're
at
hosting ECU?
I mean,
they're hosting ECU. But they also play on the road at South Carolina in November.
At South Carolina? Oof. That's going to be rough.
It's the second to last week of the season.
In November, too.
So it's going to be very fresh on everyone's mind what happened against the Gamecocks on November 22nd.
In state, too. Well, that's also an opportunity for Tim Beck. Could you imagine if he won that game?
Against JMU.
Well, that's going to suck if they need a win or two to get bowl eligible, and they've got to play South Carolina. It's going to be a tough game to win. Potentially get really beat up, and then have to play JMU right afterwards.
Hey, Aaron, if they don't have 6 wins
before that
after
game,
November 8th, they might not go bowling because they play at Georgia Southern on the road November 15th. Then they go on the road against South Carolina, and then they host JMU. There's a chance that if they're not at 6 wins, they don't get there.
That's a
very tough stretch at the end of the year.
Brutal. Yeah, that's got to be rough for them. But
that's
hey,
after you have to play Marshall, Old Dominion, and App State.
At least the food and drinks will be free at Coastal Carolina Stadium this season.
Nachos, hot dogs, popcorn.
Let's be honest. That price is baked into the season ticket price.
I just want to see there's a couple dudes that are gonna are game planning this already to see how much of that free stuff they can eat. It's gonna be on someone's social media feed. Might even be that guy that we saw this weekend talking about baseball, Mike.
It might be, Aaron. I want someone to do the math. As a cost accountant, I want to see someone reverse engineer what the actual cost is for the food that's baked into these ticket prices, so they know how much they need to eat this season to actually get free food.
It's a crazy promotion. I don't think I've seen anything like it.
But
Oh, you
David,
wanted
they raised
popcorn
their
with
ticket
butter?
prices.
That costs more.
David, they raised their ticket prices by like $30 per person. So to me, I'm thinking whatever their food cost is per game is probably $5 per person,
Yeah. Yeah, I could see
based on
that.
what they expect everyone to eat. So then you extrapolate that out, $30 for the season, right?
Hmm.
They
That makes
baked
sense.
so it's not free. It's just
And then if you figure out how many folks
promoted
don't
smartly as
actually
free.
show up and use their tickets,
Hmm. I mean, I guess it keeps the fans wanting to come because if I bought season tickets and even if it's a bad team, I'm going to go and get my free food real quick, you know?
all right, kids, we're going to get lunch.
Yeah.
Question though, Aaron, how many times have you eaten in Ballard?
Um, purchase food. I
Yeah.
might have bought nachos one time. In what? How long's it been open? Actually, we're talking ever food trucks in the early days, a little bit, but since
Okay.
the new stadium, nachos once maybe. Lisa popcorn, if I can't find it free somewhere.
And you're probably not a rarity in that. Meaning they already know how many people are buying food and how many aren't buying food at all, right?
Yeah,
So
I
by
think
telling
that
everyone it's
first
free,
season.
raising the price, they're actually going to make more money on food this year than they've ever made on food because they're charging everyone for it through tickets.
And that's true as a cost accountant, Mike. You probably have a certain amount per ticket just going to that line item in your GL for food because you got
Yeah.
to account for it. You got to buy it
Also,
unless it's
also,
beer
I saw
at a
the line.
concert.
It's only certain foods.
Yeah, nachos, hot dogs, popcorn, and Cokes. I think soft drinks.
Right. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of people that get up to that stand. They see the lines are either excessively long or they see, I don't want a hot dog or I don't want nachos. Let me try that burger.
Yeah, where they go, I want chili on my hot dog. That'll be $5, please, sir.
There you go.
$5 for chili. All right,
All
guys.
right,
Anyways,
David.
if we show up down to Coastal for a football game, we're testing it out.
Coastal's in Norfolk this year, I believe. Or I mean, excuse me. Yeah, Coastal is in Norfolk against the Monarchs. But yeah, guys, I think we should talk about probably the hottest seat in the Sun Belt, which is our own beloved Ricky Ronnie, in my opinion. He's the hottest seat for two reasons. One is he's just the longest tenured coach in the Sun Belt now. He was hired in 2020, and all the other coaches are new, and they haven't been around long enough to heat their seats up this hot. And the second reason is he just still hasn't brought home a winning season. I do want to premise it with I think he's a really good coach. I think he rebuilt this team from the 1-11 squad that Wilder had in 2019 and how to deal with a lot of obstacles with the way the portal and NIL has changed the sport. And I think he's really built a good squad to compete in the Sun Belt. I think he's been given a pretty hard hand, honestly, because the non-conference schedule has been brutal against him. There's been a bunch of seasons where we haven't even had an FCS team, and we're playing two Power Fours, playing two good G5 teams like last season with ECU and Bowling Green State and South Carolina and Virginia Tech. But each one of his seasons in the non-conference, he's gone 1-3. He hasn't had a 500 record in non-conference play. In conference play, he's been better. The past two seasons, he did 4-4 this past season, and it was 5-3 the season before that. That's That's a 9-7 overall record in the conference, so it's very competitive. But at the same time, he still hasn't brought a winning season to ODU. And ODU fans, we've been really patient with him, but we want to win. We want to start getting into the winning column. And he only has 2 years left of his contract. He has this season, and he has till 2026. But I do think this is the most important year for him to finally get into that winning column and have a winning season. Because I'm not sure if he'll see 2026 if it's another losing season.
So I want to first start off with what you said about how he's changed his program since taking over for Bobby Wilder. Even when Bobby had successful seasons, the 2016 season even included the 10-win season, we were competitive against bad teams throughout. The biggest problem with Bobby's teams were when we played good teams, we got our tails kicked. And they weren't close games. We were getting blown out. What we've seen the last 3 years is that a team that can go on the field and compete with anyone they're playing, essentially. That growth alone makes me appreciate Ricky a lot. It's hard to say, like, yeah, I'm happy with 5 or 6 win seasons, but I'm happy not getting our doors blown off each week and knowing we have a chance to win every single week. And I think that needs to be noted in this part of this discussion of Ricky.
I mean, I agree completely. I think Ricky Ronnie's a really good coach. I think he is capable of competing with any team. You saw it with South Carolina last year. We had a lead at South Carolina in the fourth quarter. Like, I agree with you. Like, Bobby Wilder era, I don't think that would ever happen. And I do think Ricky Ronnie can do it. Just because I put him number one, that doesn't mean I think he's gone after this season. I think he can put together a winning season this season and get an extension potentially. That's like I said last year, I said Butch Jones and Clay Helton's seats were warming up, but they had good seasons and they got extended. I think Ricky Ronnie can do that too, and I think he's a good coach. I genuinely do. I think he gets this team to compete. I think he's been gifted a really tough hand with a pretty brutal non-conference schedules. And I do think he can turn it around, but that still doesn't negate the fact that 4 seasons in and he still hasn't brought a winning record home.
I was going to say, not only does he have the ability to do that, I think this year he does do that. And I do think that he earns this extension. There are so many moving parts to being able to put together a winning football team in college these days. It's so much more complex than even just 2 or 3 seasons ago. And Ricky's got the mind to be able to do those sorts of things. So it's not just the X's and O's on the field. It's about being able to retain a coaching staff and then adding pieces to that coaching staff where there are opportunities to get better. And we've seen that he's got all of his coordinators all back. I don't think another team in the Sun Belt has that continuity from a recruiting standpoint. Mike can talk firsthand on kind of the organization, the amount of energy, the focus, the results that are going on the recruiting side. And then from an NIL perspective of being able to take the dollars that you have from the NIL world, and while we're trying to grow that and be able to effectively and efficiently use those dollars to retain the talent that you have, like a Colton Joseph, who's back, a great linebacking core who's back. Ricky's the CEO of all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's a good thing that he's a freaking 100-pound brain and can balance all of that. So I think this year is the year. I mean, it's a daunting schedule, but we've talked about it before, Mike. This is the season in my mind that we get over the hump and have a winning season. It's a terribly hard schedule, so I don't know how much over 500, but I think he does it, and I think he gets that extension, and he's not number one next year.
I think you got to go 2-2 in non-conference. You got to beat Liberty. You got to beat Liberty. Uh, on top of that, to add on to what you just said about Ricky and his balancing of the budget, his use of NIL, his staff consistency, his ability to retain guys like Colton Joseph and Quinn Hennicle, Chris Trinidad, and his use of NIL for the future health of Old Dominion football. The best thing for Old Dominion football is for Ricky to win this season and earn an extension. If we have to go to this point of if we mess up and let him walk like a Charles Huff, or he fails and doesn't meet expectations, we're looking at a complete rebuild. Whoever comes in is going to have to start from scratch, and we are looking at probably an even worse season next year, right? And I don't think any of us want to see that. So, ideally for Old Dominion football, he earns that extension this season, and we are not talking about him on the hot seat at all this late in the podcast next year.
Right. You mentioned that Liberty game. I think that is definitely going to be the biggest game, biggest test of the season, because we have to play at Virginia Tech. We have to play at Indiana. Those are going to be really, really tough games. We get an FCS team at home, and we should win that game. But the true test will be that Liberty game against Jamie Chadwell's team from Lynchburg. They've had a lot of turnover there at Liberty, but they usually have a pretty good squad for the G5. It's going to be a tough G5 game. There's going to be a lot of Liberty fans in our stadium. But I think he can win it. I think this team is probably the best team that Ronnie has had. He finally has a quarterback. The linebacker core is stacked. Jason Henderson's coming back. Koa Natala is coming back. Mario Thompson's coming back. Defense should be pretty good.
To add to that, Jalil Culber's coming back.
Colbert.
Yeah.
And,
can't forget him.
We have a linebacker that's coming in who whispers he might be the best of the bunch.
Whispers.
So there are guys that are not even getting playing time yet that we don't know of that are going to have impacts this season. They're going to make their names known. Like last year, we tried to pump up Jerron Manning all offseason, telling people how good he was going to be. And he was better than even we expected him to be.
He was a stud.
That's gonna happen again this year. The work they've done recruiting wise continues. The bar continues to be raised.
Right. And the other thing is, we also talked about the turnover in the conference. Marshall and App State, they just hired new coaches. They had to totally rehaul both of those rosters. I do like the additions they have, but we were talking about growing pains and coaches with first-year coaches having those growing pains in their first season. And that's going to be two good opportunities for Ricky Ronnie to try to finally beat Marshall. I'm really tired of losing to Marshall. We got to beat Marshall this season.
I would add JMU to that list. They had very good line play on both sides of the ball under their former head coach and last year under Bob Chesney. A lot of those guys have graduated, and it'll be interesting to see how he replaces that talent in the trenches. Because, I mean, most games are won and lost in the trenches. And especially for a team like us that runs the ball so much, we're going to need to be able to run the ball in JMU to win that game. And it's going to be the deciding factor. If they have not replaced their D-line well and have not replaced their O-line well, we could see the passing of the torch in Virginia of who the best football team in the state is.
Be about damn time. Get it back.
Yeah, you're right that JMU they started their dominance with that defensive line. They had a dominant defensive line with Signetti, and a lot of that defensive line, a lot of it left, but a lot of it stayed for Bob Chesney. And can Bob Chesney's defensive line hold up the same way as his past defensive lines? And we don't know the answer to that question. So I think this year is a huge opportunity for Ricky Ronnie. I think he can do it. I think we can compete for the entire Sun Belt, frankly. And I think you see others agree. Las Vegas, we were talking about the odds to win the championship. In the Sun Belt East, ODU has the third best odds to win it. It goes JMU, Georgia Southern, and then ODU. Vegas sees that ODU probably has a better chance than the rebuilding App State, rebuilding Marshall, Georgia State, and the other Sun Belt East teams.
I will note that was the opening line, right?
Right.
So opening lines are built not to say this is the end game, like this is the final line. The starting line is what is put in to influence bets on either side of the coin. The closing line is the one that matters, not the
Sure.
opening line. The closing line is the accurate one. So coming off of a 5-win season, it's kind of hard to put Old Dominion as the heavy favorite in Vegas, right? I feel like if you look at that in August, it's going to look very different than it does right now.
I mean, Vegas also put Southern Miss really, really low, but with Charles Huff and all the talent he brought to Southern Miss, like they're going to shoot up on that betting line for sure.
Right. I think the other interesting discussion with Ricky that I want to kind of close with is if I asked 10 different ODU fans what it would take for you to extend him or push him out to the pasture, what that would be. I feel like I would get 10 different answers.
You would, Mike. I mean, there are so many levels to that conversation. As we were talking earlier, there's so much more to running a program. Obviously, wins and losses dictate in the end, no matter what President Hemphill says or Wood Selig says. Like, wins and losses are important; they matter. That's why you play the game. But yeah, I mean, every fan has a different idea of what success is, and some of them, it's purely comes down to wins and losses. Others they have, they take other things into consideration. But it'll be interesting. Maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to take
Well,
that
I mean,
poll.
that's I think where I was kind of headed towards. It's a very nuanced discussion.
Yeah.
I think it deserves. I think whenever you're talking about a coach's livelihood, nuances belongs in the discussion. And I think far too often in sports media, in fan base's perspective, there's not enough nuance because it's not an easy decision to make to cut the cord and say we got to start and rebuild and blow this thing up. Not in college football, at least. I know in the NFL that they'll blow it up quickly, but this is college football. It takes years to fix things, and once you blow it up, there's no like reset button. It's going to take a little while to fix it.
I also think we'd be having a very different conversation right now if Virginia Tech backed out of our games this past season and we replaced Virginia Tech with an FCS team. We would have gone 6-6 and we would have went bowling. And then Ricky Ronnie would have took us bowling 3 times of his 4 seasons. I think we would have like that small thing, that small difference could be changing this entire conversation.
It could be. But all right, so let's just think about this year. We already know what he's done. We know what we all think he can do this year. What would it take for him this year for you to give him an extension? Knowing he has 1 year after this.
An extension this year.
I mean,
with the schedule, 7 wins.
I think that's the minimum. You have to have a winning season period this season to get the extension. Hopefully a bowl victory. Assume like worst case scenario, he goes, well, I shouldn't say worst case scenario, but if he goes 6-6 and gets a bowl game, then you got to think a little bit about it, because you want him to coach that bowl game, and then you're kind of missing that valuable time of the winter portal and hiring a new coach. But you want to win the bowl game. You want to go after the bowl game, because we haven't done that so far, and Ronnie is in spitting distance of a winning season.
All right,
Let,
David.
let me
Let
can
me
I
play.
caveat my thing real quick, Mike,
Yeah,
before you
you
drop
can.
knowledge? It depends on how the 7 wins happen. If
That's
we
what I was
come
going
out
to
the
go with.
gate fast, let's say we win at Indiana or we win in Blacksburg, and we start off and then we limp into 7 wins, then I think the jury's out, and Wooded and President Hemphill are probably gonna need to see more.
Aaron, you beat me to the punch. I was going to actually say, let's say we still lose the 2P4 games, but we're 7-2, right? And we don't win another game the rest of the year.
Yeah, you can't.
So you end up
You
going.
can't do that.
So you go down 0-4 down the stretch, right?
You like Georgia Southern.
That doesn't feel good. You won 7 games, but you really limped down the stretch. I don't know how. Whereas, let's say you do what we've been doing, where you start cold and then you rip off 7 wins in the season. Feels a little different.
Yeah, and if you look at our schedule, it does feel a little front loaded. If App State and Marshall are rebuilt and they're not having as much growing pains as they could have with a first year head coach, we could be 2-6 and then win the last 4 games and go 6-6. That's a big if for Marshall and App State, but it's possible. You saw JMU reload real fast after with a first year head coach, so it's certainly possible for those two programs. But yeah, I think that's more likely is a rough start and a good finish.
I think, hey, we go on the road, and we're getting into a whole different podcast now, but we go on the road and we win at Marshall and we win at JMU. I mean, you just got 2 of your presents that you were hoping for, and David.
Oh yeah,
that really sets the pace for the rest of the season. And if Mike, something were to happen, like you said, of the end of year kind of collapse, that would be painful.
I do think if we're 7-2, there's no way we're not winning like 11 games. Because the end of the season is our easiest stretch of the season.
I agree.
This is the nicest end of season schedule we've had in a long time at Old Dominion.
No, 100%. That's like life expectancy. Whatever they say, a dude's supposed to live to 78, but if you live to 60, you're probably going to live to like 90. So if you get to 7-2, you're right. Your odds of
this feels a lot like that
higher.
First bowl season with Ricky, where our front of the schedule was front loaded, and then we were terrible and we stunk, and then we started cooking midseason and we ended up at 6-6 to play Tulsa. This feels a lot like that season where it's all how you judge it, I guess. Like, were we that good? I don't know, but it was a fun season to watch.
Yeah, I remember how low everybody was when we were 1-6. I mean, we're definitely not going to a bowl game. We got to win 5 games in a row, and we're a 1-6 team. And then Ronnie just said 1 game at a time, go 1-0 every week, and that's what they did. They just started playing well.
That the schedule was not that difficult.
That's true. Ending the game.
And that's the one that we don't really talk about that often is, yeah, we played all of our bad teams last.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that is really college football in its essence. It's the rub of the green. Like, we could play GMU when their starting quarterback is hurt. We could play JMU when their starting quarterback finally gets back and their whole thing is just gelling. It's all about when you play a team. I remember last year there was a point where JMU looked terrible, and they kind of got through that point, and then they started playing really good football. And we played them in the part where they were playing good football.
Yeah, we never play people when they're playing their worst football.
Well, that 6-6 year, we did play a Southern Miss team that was, I think, playing a receiver at quarterback.
Oh, Frank Gore? No, that was whole other seasons, huh?
That was another Southern Miss season where they had a non-quarterback play quarterback.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
we've had our luck, and we've been hurt by when you play teams in the season. It's going to happen every year, but it's one of the most interesting aspects of college football that week to week the teams are so different.
all right. Well, now I'm really excited for football season. And now we got months to go. I'm ready. I'm ready to go down to the castle and go to the blue lot and hang out with you guys again.
Aaron?
I mean, I'm ready for football too. I was just thinking when you said blue lot, I'm thinking about food and why I never eat anything in the stadium. I don't think any of us have eaten anything in the stadium since Harry Minium's big article about all like the gourmet food that was going to be in the stadium, crab cakes and all that other stuff. That stuff disappeared real quick.
I will be honest, I don't think I've ever eaten in any football stadium I've been to because I do tailgate. If you didn't tailgate, I understand it. But if you're tailgating, why are you even eating in the stadium?
I think I've had the Italian sausage at the stadium before, and it was good. It was Italian sausage.
They have an Italian sausage in the stadium. It's not a hot dog.
They did then. It was a while ago. I couldn't even tell you which game
David,
or which
you
season
could
it
have
was.
said oyster po' boy, Italian sausage, anything, and I would have believed it because I don't know anything we sell in the stadium that's food. All right, so how many weeks we got till football season?
What, like 15, right?
Too many is the answer,
Yeah.
Aaron. I
Okay.
can't wait for the
Yes.
season. It's going to be a fun one. We got a lot of cool stuff planned. We're considering some pivots with the podcast to make it more interesting. We got more football content coming your way. David's going to continue putting out what he does. We got Justice working on some things, and we got our Football 101 guy working on some things. We got a lot of stuff in the works, and we hope to put out some more recruiting content. Thank you for joining us for this companion piece that became I think the piece is now the companion part because this is now an hour-long podcast.
What did we say? We were going to talk for like 20 minutes and it turned into 20 minutes times 4.
You get 3 football guys just talking about football. We'll just keep going.
Yeah.
For real.
So yeah, let's have a fun season. Don't take this article too seriously. None of us are saying fire Ricky right now.
Yeah, absolutely not.
We all want him to win.
Oh yeah.
The best thing for this fan base and this program. So until next time, go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.